This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ.
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky always bringing dark to light. Seymour, senior system.
Shout out to everybody that did something. Shout out to everybody that did something close to what we're supposed to be doing on Jehudi Day. Shout out to everybody that did something close to what we're supposed to be doing on Ancestors Day. Shout out to everybody that knows when Jehudi Day and Ancestor Day is. Yeah. Shout out to everybody that has their calendar, right? Shout out to everybody that has their calendar. Shout out to everybody that has their calendar, right? Dua to all of my wild netchers in the building. All of my wild netchers. Yes. And today is the day we are going to crack this thing open. Today is the day we're going to crack this thing open. Okay, we got some YNs. We got some young netchers in the building. We got some young netchers, some wild netchers. Right? We got some young netchers, some wild netchers. The YNs, the YNs in here. No, man. Trying to wrestle with y'all orders. Oh. I've been up since before the crack of dawn. So I hope y'all got y'all books, though. Y'all got to have y'all books. You got to have y'all books. We are moving in a much more organized fashion. And so there's definitely going to be other books that pop up. Obviously, it's going to be a few books that pops up. But you need to make sure you have the main book. And you need to make sure you have your book money. Because the books, listen, the book's going to start to drop. Boop, 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 boop. It's going to be, the book's going to start, it's going to be like, the book's going to start dropping. So I appreciate everybody who took the opportunity over the last couple of weeks, while no new books have been dropping, to continue to build their collection on all the books that they have been missing. Right? Yo, Ink, I can't catch up because every time I get a book, you drop 2 books. Well, you should have had a nice little opportunity. You should have had you a nice little opportunity
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky always bringing dark to light. CMOS senior system.
The problem with Boosie.
Boosie?
Yeah, Boosie.
This man got a cancer, but he frying pancakes in olive oil.
Okay.
You tell me something ain't wrong with that, brother. You tell me something ain't wrong with that. When Boosie at home, laying comfortably, making bologna sandwiches for his 20 kids. This man got diabetes, homie.
Okay.
But he frying funnel cakes.
Funnel cake. You know, you maybe get some avocado oil. That's a little bit more healthy
come
for
on,
you.
homie. He the one with the diabetes. Come on, he.
Yeah, you gotta shoot up all the time. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's crack this thing open. Right? We obviously know somebody got their book. Right? We know somebody got their book. Right? Somebody got their book. Somebody doing some homework. Oh, I might as well lead this up, right? Right? I might as well lead this up. Right? You should know what this is by now. Let's go. Ooh! Ooh! I feel it. Ooh! Ooh! Let's go. No, this electron transport chain right here. Ooh! I feel it. I appreciate it. Right? But this is on the cover of the book. Right? This is on the cover. In this class kind of created that book. Right? Kind of created that book. Right? Because a large part of the conversation in this book was driven by water, pun intended, right? Pun intended. But, wait a minute. I feel like that's a little bit better. You're like, Inky, you ain't even moved the camera. I think I moved the camera. So shut up at home and just let me think I moved the camera. But no, seriously, pun intended, a large portion of this book was driven by water, focused on water. But the book is not about water. This book is about your overall pigment system, with the obviously with the center of that pigment system being the melanin system, melanocortin system, anabolic system, and the crossroad between that and fat, right? And dealing with the silence about the melanin system. And then on the flip side, dealing with the fraud, the lies, and the confusion surrounding how our body's fat works, how fat metabolism works, how carbohydrate metabolism works, how metabolism works, right? The entire science surrounding electrogenesis and aquagenesis. And that is where we get back around to this formula, right? That is where we get back around to this formula, right? So we kind of needed to have an entire book, and I kind of wanted to get yesterday's class out of the way. Not out of the way. Let me not frame it that way. Let me reframe it, right? I wanted to get that like into your brain. Because when we look at a lot of the magic inside a cell, right? And it's been my pet peeve for a very long time, and one of my driving inspirations in terms of teaching and trying to, share a different perspective on biochemistry, is to highlight water, right? Just to highlight water, and maybe that's something God put on me, right? When I look back, I think that way. But that's been one of my things, to try to highlight water, because water is really the star of the show. We can look at a lot of different things. We can look at a lot of different aspects of biochemistry and how amazing it is, and all of the different, but it's all running via water. It's all running through, powered by, activated. Like, you can put so many different adjectives in that slot and then follow it with water, and they would all be true. So as we were going through and we're talking about anabolism, and we kind of gloss over, we talk about like in terms of muscle, right? Branch chain amino acids. You know what I'm saying? I remember a time when I was chasing muscle, and I was buying liquid BCAAs and all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Branch chain amino acids. That's what it was all about. You get a little bit deeper and you figure out, okay, wait a minute. These amino acids are not even the ones that sustain the muscle function. It's your proline, glycine, hydroxyproline. It's your collagen building. So focus over here, and then you get, the anomaly is always the muscle is 85% water, right? The muscle is 85% water, right? And so, biochemistry largely just treats that as a backdrop, It's just something going on in the background, like oxygen. So anyway, as we went through the book, it just became more of a thing to where, I don't know if y'all pay attention, but as we go through these classes, I'm always writing down little sneaky notes to myself, right? And sometimes those notes are just notes for me. Sometimes those notes pile up and, lead to a chapter, lead to a paper, or lead to a book. So this is definitely a formula, though, that we should begin to have engraved in our brains. Like ritual, like what time it is to prayer, right? Like what time it is to prayer. You should know this formula. When you see it, you should know it. This is the magic. This formula is the magic. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure that Peyton wrote that up good. Yeah, you could have moved that O over a little. That O looked lonely. You know what I'm saying? That oxygen looked lonely over there. You're supposed to put that oxygen closer to the. Yeah. It's supposed to be 2, then put the space, and then put the H2O together like one. You know what I'm saying? But I think we got the message, though, right? This is the magic. This is where it all happens, right? The electrons are going this way so that they can build up, so that they can, through attraction, right? Through attraction, right? We could even say like microgravity. But through attraction, the electrons going through here move the protons from the inner matrix to the outer matrix. We get here, and this is where, so here we already have our electricity, right? The electron transport chain is already doing this quantum electricity thing, right? We already have our protonicity, right? We got streams of protons, right? We got streams of protons, especially here. We got a stream of protons, right? But here we have that magic, right? And that's probably not probably, but we're going to focus a lot throughout the book on this guy, right? We're going to focus a lot on this guy. The more we learn about protein, the more we learn about what happens in a cell, the more this becomes important. The more this becomes important, to the point where you're going to get to where I am and have to then begin to reevaluate. Like, which is more important for powering the cell, right? Is it the H2O or the ATP? Which one is more important to the cell? You know what I'm saying? Like that, but not important right now. But later you'll start to wrestle with some of them ideas as you start to see how important this is and how crazy it is that we never learned about this. Right? How crazy it is that we never learned about our body's ability to produce pure water. Right? right, so let's look at let's look let's just go crazy. How about that? Let's go crazy. Let's go crazy for a second. Yeah, let's get off the science for a second. Let's get off the science for a second. Let's just let's throw some ideas around. Yeah, let's just throw some ideas around. Right? It's Sunday. It's Sunday. I feel like, wait a minute. 777. Let's go with the God numbers. Come on, let's go with the God numbers in the building, man. That's what I'm talking about. Shh. Dewey, they're not supposed to know I've been teaching this for so long. They supposed to think this brand new. Oh man. No, that's if you don't have the mitochondria water book, you need to get that book. These are only facts. These are only facts because there's definitely some stuff in that book that's not in there's stuff in the mitochondria water book that's not in this book. There's stuff in the hydrochemistry book, right? The hydrochemistry book that's not inside this book, right? There's stuff in the there's stuff in the Wasceptor book. There's a few books that collectively that collectively right. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We got some joints floating around. We got some joints floating around. Right? So hold on. Let's get into what is this? Okay, bam, let's get rid of that. Let's grab this. All right, if you have your book, we're on page 5. If you have your book, we're on page 5. If you don't have your book, you trolling. If you don't have your book, you trolling, and somebody need to just slap. No, just kidding. If you don't have your book, I know that you're ordering your book right now. I know it. I could feel it in my heart that you went to Amazon right now to order your book right now. Right? But let's start our Sunday off with some holy water talk. Let's start our day off with some holy water talk. All right, let's get into the holy water bag. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. Holy water is water that has been blessed by a member of the clergy or religious figure or derived from a well or spring considered holy. The use for cleansing prior to a baptism and spiritual cleansing is common in several religions from Christianity to Sikhism. The use of holy water as a sacramental for protection against evil is common amongst Lutherans, Anglicans, Catholics, and Eastern Christians. Okay. In Catholicism, blah, 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 holy water is water that has been sanctified by a priest for the purpose of baptism, for the blessing of persons, places, and objects, or as a means of repelling evil. The apostolic constitutions, whose texts date to 400 AD, attribute the precept of using holy water to the apostle Matthew. It is plausible that the earliest Christians may have used water for expiatory and purificatory purposes in a way analogous to its employment in Jewish law. And he shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and he shall cast a little earth of the pavement of the tabernacle into it. Numbers 5:17. Yet in many cases, the water used for the sacrament of baptism was flowing sea or river water, which in the view of the Catholic Church could not receive the same blessing as the water contained in baptisteries. However, Eastern Orthodox Christians do perform the same blessing, whether in a baptistery or for an outdoor body of water. All right. So this goes back to 400 AD. Right. We're going to keep rocking. Sprinkling with holy water is used as a sacramental that recalls baptism. In the West, the blessing of water is traditionally accompanied by exorcism and by the addition of exorcised and blessed salt. Right? So holy water, right? The blessing of the water traditionally accompanied by exorcism. Right? So it's about getting rid of demons from the body. Now, we had some conversations, right? We had some conversations on an ancient perspective on demons. And that perspective being very, 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 very close to what we would call today bacteria and viruses, right? Very, very close to that. Now, over the last 2,000 years, things have gotten very spooky. Over the last 2,000 years, things have gotten very spooky. So I'm just bringing that conversation back to mind. By no means do I think that Wiki or the person who created this Wiki article is also of that same frame of mind or frame of reference, right? I'm just reminding folks, right? Just reminding. Okay, what are we doing Sunday? The hat is moving. The hat is moving. Let's go. I don't even know what kind of money that is. The hat is moving. The hat is floating around. The hat is floating around. The hat is moving. So y'all like this hat. Lauren says she liked this hat. This hat is working. Okay. This hat is working. Yeah, we got to keep this hat passing around to the church. The church, come on now. Don't be, don't be one of them little bad kids when the bowl come around. Instead of putting some money in it, you faking. Some little kids be faking like they got money in their hand, and they might, instead of putting a few dollars into the bowl, they grab a few. Oh my God. The things you do to survive. Hey, listen. They be grabbing a handful of quarters or a couple of them singles and crunched it up. Hey, oh my goodness. Let's go with the math though. Let's go with the 12 and 60. Let's go with the 3, 4, 5 triangle. Let's go with the 1, 3, 7. You know what I'm saying? Let's go with the merger between energy and matter and spirit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's listen. I love it. Let's go. Let's find all kinds of magical numbers and put them into the hat. Yo, I'm telling you, them same little children that used to fake like they was putting money into the church, the tray, and take a few dollars out, they grew into grown men that would go to the strip club and fold up their dollars, single dollars the long way, and they act like they tipping the stripper. And when they shove their dollar in, they be having those things around their thighs with their money in it. They shove a dollar in and slide a $10 bill or $20 bill out. Oh my goodness. The street is a nasty place. That's why folks need some holy water. Yes, you need some holy water. Sprinkle some holy water on you. Oh my goodness. All right. Holy water is kept in the holy water font, which is typically located at the entrance to the church, sometimes in a separate room or building called baptistry. Smaller vessels called stoups are usually placed at the entrance of the church to enable people to bless themselves with it on entering. In the Middle Ages, Christians esteemed the power of holy water so highly that in some places fonts had lock covers to prevent the theft of holy water for unauthorized magic practices. This is kind of crazy. This is kind of crazy. Proper disposal. Holy water, as well as the water used during the washing of the priest's hands at Mass, is not allowed to be disposed of in regular plumbing. Churches will usually have a special basin that leads directly into the ground for the purpose of proper disposal. A hinged lid is kept over the holy water basin to distinguish it from a regular sink basin, which is often just beside it. That contain holy water are separate, drained of the holy water, and then washed in a regular manner in the adjacent sink. Hygiene. Holy water fonts have been identified as a potential source of bacterial and viral infection. You see how crazy this got just that quick? I know somebody in their mind was thinking, if at some point 2,000, 3,000 years ago, demons were associated with viruses or bacteria, and you go, wait a minute, that's not possible because bacteria and viruses are relatively new terms. Correct. But getting infections from bacteria and viruses are not new phenomena, right? So don't get caught up in words and just know that human phenomena that we experience today, they experienced 500 years ago, 5,000 years ago. They're going to probably experience it 500 years from now, 5,000 years from now. And even if they have totally different languages with different wording to describe those phenomena, the phenomena will still be the same. Even if they come up with a new word for an infection, it's still going to be an infection. And chances are it's still going to be from the corona family, which is where most common colds come from, right? Most common colds are from the corona family, just in case people are still running around scared to death. You've been getting corona all your life. Only facts. But yeah, so the phenomena is the same, right? It's interesting, right? Well, I'll say this. Let me close. Land my plane on the first part. I know somebody was like, if it was associated, the concept of demons to infections, sickness, illness. And when we had the conversation, we went through, I think it's some books. Yeah, I think we have a book where we kind of touch on some of those aspects in the Bible, in the biblical text, right? How did they lose that? How did they lose that understanding over time? Because it got spooky. Not only did it get spooky, but it moved from one hand to another hand to another hand, right? So the original Christian blueprint is Kemetic. It went from there to Greece. Then from Greece, they had it for 5 minutes before the Romans came and took it from them. And then, the telephone game, things get lost in translation, things get mixed, things get added in. Then Rome stamps, they come with the cannon, boom. And even in the process of them stamping what will wind up being, Christianity for the masses that we have today, Catholic, all of the different versions, what I'm saying, putting their stamp on the Bible and the rituals and traditions as such, I can only imagine that what they didn't know, they just faked it. What they didn't know, they just faked it, right? And so this is where part of my problem comes in, because again, our medical system is based largely on the church. We can't really blame the medical system for the medical system. We have to blame the church. And I know that, yeah, let's just knock this out real quick. So we can get back. I'm going to write it down so I remember to pick up where I left off, so I don't forget my train of thought. Blaming the church. That's what we're doing. We come back. After these messages, we'll be right back. All right, get this chair out the way. Inky prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set our cells into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky, always bringing dark to light. CMOS, senior system.
Over there. Okay. So, again, we got to blame the church. The church is the problem with the medical system. The church is the reason that we so far behind, right? Because the church stopped the progress. The church stopped the progress. Even though Greece was plagiarists, right? They was doing their plagiarism thing. They was basically copy and paste, most of Kemet, whatever they could learn or whatever they had been passed along, whatever the case may be, right? Even the Rosetta Stone is like literally proof written in stone of that, right? But still, the movement was moving. Still the movement was moving. The information was being filtered and sometimes a little sugar added to the, it was getting stepped on, but it was still, you're still getting that information. Once you get the official, Roman church in place, anything outside of the Roman church was a threat to the power of the Roman church. The largest threat to the power of the Roman church has always been the threat of Kemet. The threat of Kemet. Kemet was always a secret. Period. It was always a secret. That's part of the reason you have Egyptologists to promote this idea of Egypt and this imaginary thing that they made up called ancient Egypt, right? To the point where we even have to say ancient Egypt to teach about it or to communicate it, because for the most part, unless we in these little YouTube spaces, the people at large, you gotta like, you say Kemet just in quick conversation, you gotta like explain, like, no, ancient Egypt. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Unless you in these little YouTube spaces and niches we done created for ourselves, the world at large, you got to say ancient Egypt, right? But ancient Egypt doesn't exist. There's no such thing as that, right? There's no such thing as that. There's no ancient Egypt. There's Kemet, then there's Alexander the Great, and then there's Egypt. Everything before Alexander the Great is Kemet. There's no ancient Egypt, right? There's no ancient Egypt. This is Kemet, right? So, but the church put the brakes on Kemet. Anything the world needs to get from Kemet needs to be funneled through the church, as if the church is given, and not only did the church put the brakes on all things Kemet, because you got to understand the philosophy, right? The Neteru, right, was the forces of nature. Get it? like I'm trying to make this plain. The Necharu were the forces of nature, the powers of the universe, which, you know, operate through nature, right? Or what we've come to understand as nature, right? So you have to understand how when they block anything that has to do with nature as witchcraft, etc., etc., that effectively blocks all the Kemetic everything, all the Kemetic everything, right? And so when you do that, you block all of the sciences, including the math, the medicine, etc., etc., right? Only problem is they needed that. The new world kind of needed to reach back and grab those things. We need this math. We're going to need this medicine. We're going to need this surgery. We're going to need a few things. So that's where people get invented. No. That's where whole entire people that never existed get invented. Like Pythagoras. Pythagoras is made up. There's no such thing as Pythagoras, but Pythagoras is made up. So now you have a Pythagoras. Bam. Oh yeah, Pythagoras came up with this and this and it doesn't exist, right? So now you're moving forward from the handoff from Kemet to Greece, right? The handoff from Kemet to Greece. Now, when you hand off Kemet to Greece, right? And this is all, we still in the water class. This is orientation for the water class. So this, but when the handoff goes Kemet to Greece, right? Remember what goes along with that, right? From Kemet to Greece, right? We got Euclid somewhere in there with the science of math and geometry and, you know, measure and woo. Which, unless you've been asleep at the wheel, the science of geometry and measure has grown into what we call today quantum mechanics, right? Because at the root of quantum mechanics is observation, and observation, you know, that's like a synonym. Anyway, so you have this handoff from Kemet to Greece, right? And a part of that is the trivium and the quadrivium, right? The trivium and the quadrivium is the system of education, right? And so it's in this space, it's in this transition space from Kemet, Greece to Rome, where the people who were still, you know, studying Kemet had to kind of like go underground. And so that's where you get the concept of the underground Freemasons, and, you know, they battling it out with the church and boom, boom, boom. That's where that comes from, right? But I'm saying that because that's where the education goes, right? That's where education goes. And so education is, you know, trivium, quadrivium, right? You learn how to write, read, articulate yourself. Math is different than geometry. Geometry and math separate from music, right? You learn your astronomy, and, you know, you have your seven, this is your seven main, right? That's all you have. You don't have anything else, right? So you don't really have anything else except the quote unquote Masonic education. That's the only thing that actually exists from the time of Kemet up until you have church schools, right? You have church schools, and then you have churches by decree, like basically like certifying like schools, right? And so when the schools come into existence, large scale, right? This is why now still your degrees or diplomas or certifications still have like a churchy vibe to them. And if you go to like a prestigious school, it'd be super, So the churches are the authority that sanction schools. And with that authority, right, obviously you sanction a school, you're sanctioning curriculum, right? What's going to be taught, what's not going to be taught. And of the things that are taught, what will be the perspective that they are taught from, right? The things that are taught, what perspective will they be taught from, right? So this is why we have to blame the church for the reason our medical system is in the sewer, right? Because we walked away forcefully, voluntarily. We had to turn our back on all of the things that, all of the therapeutic things that we had developed over, hundreds or maybe thousands of years up until that point, right? And so we have this big black space of 2,000 years, give or take a few hundred years, where it's not until the 1800s. It's not until the 1800s that we figure out what a water molecule is. Which is crazy because we already had medical schools in Europe, and then the first medical school here in the 1765. 1765, we have our first medical school here. It's not to the 1800s that we figure out what a water molecule is. It's not till 1800s that we figure out what a water molecule is, right? So we start medical school, deaf, dumb, and blind. What I did that backwards, right? Deaf, dumb, and blind, right? We start medical schools here without knowing anything about the human body. The most basic aspect of the human body is that it's mostly water. So if we don't know about that, then we know mostly nothing about how the human body works, right? We had not even discovered an actual cell yet. We had not even discovered an actual cell yet, right? So that's what I'm saying. We can't necessarily blame the medical system or even the school system. We got to go back to the root. Holistic healing tells us not to worry so much about the symptom as to find the root cause of the illness, right? That's what holistic, naturopathic. You don't deal with the symptom. I mean, you deal with the symptom, obviously, for comfort. But if you want to get real recovery, you got to figure out the root of the problem and get to the root and try your best to, right, change some variables, right? Change some variables and get a different outcome with that root. The root here is the education system that developed into what we have as a medical system. And that was shaped largely by the paranoia to the social economic structure powerhouse, even, you know what I'm saying? Give respect where respect is due, because they was flashing the Bible around, but they wasn't operating with no Bible. The early church was operating with the sword. They was flashing the book around. They were showing people the book, but nobody could read it. Nobody was allowed to read it. You could look at it. Yeah, this is the Bible. God's word is inside this book. Do you believe it? No. Off with his head. Hit you with that sword. Like, does anybody else have any problems with what's in this book? They're like, no. You got it. What you said is in that book. God's word. God's word is in it. That's all you got to do a couple times. You're like, hey, everybody, quiet down. This is a book from God. His word is in this. If you don't believe in this, you are a heathen and you're going to hell. Folks is like, what is he? Who he think? Head roll off onto the ground. Does anybody else have a? No, sir. That's the right. So, yeah, nobody could read the book. White folks wasn't even letting white folks read the book. Nobody could read the book. If you wasn't with the clique, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't with the army. You know what I'm saying? It's not till a long time. A lot of people died, got lit on fire, hung, all kinds of craziness in order to be able to read the book. And that's white folks. You know what I'm saying? That's not, cycle repeating itself later on with black folks trying to figure out what was in the book. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's a lot of ignorance surrounding that. So I'm just prefacing give you some backdrop on the history of water, so to speak, right? The history of water, as, I guess, scientifically, right? The history of water as we understand it, H2O, and then obviously H2O2, peroxide, and then H3O2, cytoplasm or structured water, if you will. But as a healing modality, right? As a part of health, as a part of being healthy, holistic lifestyle, whatever the case may be, right? Just, you kind of need to have all that in your back pocket to really be able to say, a thing or two about water, right? It's more than being able to say you saw, a Mona Harrison video or Masaru Emoto videos, where they pray and take pictures of the water crystals, right? Or Gerald Pollack, right? Gerald Pollack, who everybody believes invented structured water, and he didn't invent structured water or easy water or easy zone, whatever. None of that. He didn't invent none of that. He got that from Gilbert Ling, and Gilbert Ling was building on, what's his name? Everett Just, black guy. But yeah, so there's a lot, history wise, you want to have a lot of things in your water tool bag, your water backpack, like Dora the Explorer. We got a backpack, my electricians. We have our electrician tool belt and backpack, right? You want to have, you want to know as much as you can about water, seeing as water is the source of all chemistry, biochemistry, all of the magic, even the folks that's dealing with UFOs, right? One way, from one angle or the other. right? If you're banking that Elon is going to get us to Mars and he's going to build the tunnels up there, he's got to figure out water. Forget about the machines. He's got to figure out the water and how when he gets water on Mars, the water will stay on Mars, right? Because it's not just a matter of getting water to Mars, right? You can technically, if you can fly from here to Mars, you can just take some water up there, right? But how do you keep water there, right? There's a big difference. You've got to figure out how to keep the water there. And just hiding underground doesn't do it. Living underground, for the people that are keeping up with the Elon Mars story, that living underground doesn't keep water there. The water will slowly drip out of Mars. The water will slowly leave Mars. So then you're doing what? You're trying to like leave Mars to you trying to pull back up to like, so now Earth becomes the connect, right? You coming to re-up, you coming back to Earth to re-up every 10, 20 years. Like, so he's got to figure out water, right? Before he figures out technology, he needs to figure out water. Water needs to be, that's a thing. Water's a thing. Water's never not going to be a thing, no matter what. No matter how much synthetic nanobots, organ replacement, brain chip, cyborg, whatever. Water is going to be the main thing forever. So we don't really understand much if we don't understand water. Water is the driving factor in digestion, protein folding, everything. Had to give me a sign. It says, "Do not let your dog use the bathroom in my front yard." Give me a little sign. Yeah, because people think because I got a dog. Like, no. Everybody sees me. When I walk my dog in the street. That's how my father taught me to walk the dog. And this is in New York. He was like, yo, walk the dog in the street, bro. Yeah, you don't want to be, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be letting the dog sugar honey iced tea in the wrong spot. You know what I'm saying? So I always did that. Respect everybody's space and property. You know what I'm saying? My dog don't pee or poop on other people's property. Or on mine. I mean, well, technically the city's property. Yeah, in the street. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it's the same thing as a human. You know what I'm saying? Isn't that crazy? I know we got to get back to the information, but just think about that for a second. Because I know some of y'all are dog lovers. And so you think it's okay to let your dog poop like right out front. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, dogs are people too. But just think about if instead of seeing my dog using the bathroom in front of your house, you saw me, right? Sugar honey iced tea and right in front of your crib. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just copping a squat right there in the middle of the day, like 2 PM. You just saw me dropping a hot load right there in your grass. Like, you calling police. You might try to shoot me or something. Right? You might think I'm high or drugs or anything, right? So I'm like, nah, if we're going to treat dogs like people, right? We don't let people poop in our grass, right? Just saying. I'm just saying. We do not let people. Wait a minute. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, Texas transparency. Unfortunately, we can't do the miscarriage video. Yeah, we can't do the miscarriage video. Yeah, that's a whole Man, and I did some videos too. I wonder if I put those up on Patreon. But I will say this. How many people know which book I'm about to pull? Let's see who knows which book I'm about to pull up. Which book I'm about to find and wave in front of the camera next. How many people? Come on. I give y'all 2 guesses. Let's see who's alert. Come on. He just asked me about miscarriages. So y'all know how this works. I'm getting ready to grab books and start waving them in front of the camera and say, go to Amazon and get these books. Man, you know what? That's crazy. I ain't even think about that. That's ice cold. I did not think about that. Wow. Yo, I haven't even touched this book in so long. That's crazy. This book is probably terribly written. Nah, this is still tough though. I did not think about that. This book is still tough. You definitely should get this. Hold up, man. This is crazy. Yeah, this is tough. I got to bring this back out. Man, that wound up being a hell of a question. How about that? That wound up being a hell of a question. Wow. Yeah, nah, that wound up being a hell of a question. And this is not what I was thinking. So shout out. Let me see who said this. Tika and Paul. Yeah, shout out to Tika and Paul for that. I was not thinking about this book. Yeah, I was not thinking about this book. This is the one. Yeah. So it's not just 2 books I'm gonna wave in front of the screen. Right? It's that book, the baby making book. Then there is the pocketbook. Wherever it is, it's somewhere, the pocketbook. Yep, there you go right there. That's the pocketbook. And then we have
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky always bringing dark to light. CMOS senior system.
being right, Myron?
Nobody read no nasty books, man. You scared the hell out of me. What you talking about, man? Well, I ain't did that in about 2 weeks.
You called yesterday, 2 weeks. What you reading? What you reading?
You scared the goddamn book, man. Dr. Inky. I went on Amazon and got 3 Dr. Inky books because I'm reading about melatonin and biochemistry.
What is, Myron, that's not even a, first of all, it's not melatonin and whatever it is that you just said. It's melanin and biochemistry. You can't even pronounce the word, so how you reading? How you reading, Myron?
I'm not looking at the pictures. I got the books right here. I'm looking at the pictures. You know, it ain't nothing nasty about this. So what are you talking about? I got all the books right here. What are you talking about?
Myron, you don't even know how to read. Every time we get mail, you bring it to me. You think I don't know that?
I went to I got hooked on Phoenix. Now, what you talking about? I was hooked on Phoenix, so I know how to read.
As of when? As of when? Because first of all, hooked on phonics, I believe it's for kids. There's no such thing as hooked on Phoenix. And if I recall, you're the same person that thought reindeer was pronounced reender, and you're the same person that thought pigeon was pronounced piggion. So it makes sense that you went to hooked on Phoenix.
Man, such a dumbass.
No,
you always trying to say somebody can't read. I know exactly what I'm talking about, man. I'm reading the books. I got the book. I got the goddamn receipt right here. I got the goddamn receipt right here for the books. What you talking about?
Well, you need to return them for somebody who know how to read them. And I still don't. It's probably all type of stuff in the inside of the books, Myron. That's how sneaky you are. Give me the books. Give me the books, Myron.
Hell no.
Give me the books, Myron. Give me the books, Myron.
I'm not giving you none. I got these books off Amazon. I'm not giving you the books. Ain't that no?
Yo, well, bye. Bye.
I've been in this game. Yeah. You're animals to the shit. Animal, baby. The gods have blessed us. We must act now. We must act now to save us, to save our souls.
Yo, I'm so mad. I'm looking all over for this book, and I literally had my laptop propped up on it. I had a whole book, and I didn't think about it till just. I got a whole stack of books that I got my laptop just stacked up on top of. Okay, so my bad, and I'm about to put these books back there again. Because it makes it easier. My laptop is like a little elevated. Anyway, so obviously this book, right? The pocket book, aka the fibroids book, and then this book, Let There Be Music. You see a big sperm and egg right there on the cover of the book, right? So I think those would give you a whole nice complete course. Them 3 books together give you a whole entire course in fertility, nutrition, all of the above. All of the above. In this book, I co-authored with an active doula. So all of those books together would definitely give you a nice, good, cause, a nice, good curriculum. Yeah. That's a nice little series right there. That's a nice little. And then if you want to add like plus degrees, you know what I'm saying? Like if you want to add. No. We're not going on another mission. My bad. But there's an autism book. There's an autism book floating around here somewhere. So if you want to put all 4 of those books into your Amazon cart, right? The 3 books I just showed you, plus the autism book, because the autism book talks a lot about nutrition, and it's important that we take nutrition serious pre-pregnancy. Like that's the best advice I could give in short, and I'm gonna get back. But I guess it's kind of, baby is in the waters, blah, blah, blah. So, but the best advice I could give is make babies on purpose. That's the best thing to do to avoid, like miscarriages and stuff like that. Make babies on purpose. Most of our babies we make by mistake. You know what I'm saying? We just kind of having sex, doing our thing. Hey, babe, I missed my period. I'm pregnant. Oh, word? All right, what you want to do? You want to keep it? I'm down with you either way. But, you got to play the, hey, babe, I'm supportive. If you keep it or not, I'll be supporting you the whole way. I'm never like that. I've never been like that. I've always been like, nah, you need to have, you need to have, you need to have that. Yeah, nah. You're not going to the chop shop. You need to have that. Never supporting your other decision, potentially. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like plan to do it, and then give yourself an idea of when you want to have your baby. Like under what sign would you like your baby to be, or if you don't believe in signs or any of that, but just like have a date that you'd like to have your baby. So you want to have a summer baby, bet, let's plan, boop, boop, boop. Let's take 3 months, 6 months, a year to try to live our best life, clean eating, exercise, whatever. So, I could contribute as the dad, the best possible semen I have, you as the mom, we could try to clean up. We could try to clean up that womb, right? The eggs are pretty much set in stone. That's the difference between men and women. You know what I'm saying? Men are constantly producing living semen. Women are not. They're born with all those eggs already. So the cleanup process is different. You're trying to produce the healthiest semen you can. Her, on the flip side, it's about, just cleaning up the space, cleaning up the womb, getting the inflammation down, getting her testosterone levels up. Yeah, you heard me right. Getting her testosterone levels up. Yeah. Women need, around the eggs, is testosterone. They need to have a nice, good, high amount of testosterone around those eggs. Yeah. When the testosterone get too low around those eggs, it's issues. So just think of like a guy watering or like automatic sprinklers. There's automatic sprinklers that pop up around the woman's eggs with testosterone. So making sure, her uterus is healthy, low inflammation, a lot of leg work, a lot of leg exercises, abs, lower back exercises, stuff like that. Right? All right. Now, what else we got going on? Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. The hat made its way around to Tika. That's what I'm talking about. Now, listen, some of y'all folks in the middle, y'all them little kids that was faking and grabbing a few. Oh, my God. I thank y'all so much, though, for the people that put some money in the hat today and the people who put some money in the hat on other days. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, everybody who put something in the hat. All right. Back to water. Right? Back to water. All right. So holy water fonts have been identified as a potential source of bacterial infection. Bacterial and viral infection. In the late 19th century, bacteriologists found staph, strep, E. coli, and some other goodies. In samples taken from a church in Italy. In a study performed in 1995, 13 samples were taken when a burn patient acquired a bacterial infection after exposure to holy water. That's nasty work right there. That is crazy. That is nasty work right there. The samples in that study were shown to have a wide range of bacterial species, some of which could cause infection in humans. During the swine flu epidemic, so you know what's crazy though? Check out what's crazy. That holy water was like a fake. That holy water was like a fake little vaccine. Because you got to think about all of the people who was using that holy water. Everybody didn't get sick, right? So some people, they getting little light exposures in that water. You know what I'm saying? Like they dip their hands, splash it on them. They getting little exposure. That's just enough. That's just enough to beef up a strong immune system. But I guess it's also just enough to hurt somebody with a compromised immune system. Because if you notice, they said it's a burn victim, right? It was a burn victim that they noticed what was going on, right? Right here. 13 samples were taken when a burn patient. So the burn patient already has a compromised immune system. That's interesting. The samples in that study were shown to have a wide range of bacterial species, some of which could cause infection. During the swine flu in 2009, Bishop John Steinbach of Fresno, California, recommended that holy water should not be in the fonts for fear of spreading infections. Also, in response to the swine flu, an automatic motion detecting holy water dispenser was invented. Hey, an automatic motion detecting holy water dispenser was invented and installed in an Italian church in 2009. In 2020, because of the COVID, Episcopal conferences directed that holy water be removed from the fonts or stoops. Wow. Man. See, this is for me where it has to be a two-way street. I love science. I love religion. I love science. I love religion. I think the problem is they're both very close-minded one to the other. They're very close-minded one to the other. And that beef is started by the church. So even the evolution versus like intelligent design or evolution versus creation, all of those is beef started by the church. You know what I'm saying? All of those, we have to give credit where credit is due. Like on the internet now, the Christians always look very like warm and welcoming to everybody and woo, like. It's not exactly what history. It's not exactly what history, you know what I'm saying? So we got to take everything with a grain of salt, pun intended, right? All right, let's continue to look. Let's see, we'll skip some of this. Right, the traditional Latin formula for blessing the water. We're not going to read that. Protection against evil. Right. Bless the water that it might be effective in driving out devils and curing diseases. Right. So the two things, though, the bottom line, I'm glad that's there, but that has always been together. So again, we're not going to go through that whole program today, but that has always been there together. We drop down here. Catholic saints have written about the power of holy water as a force that repels evil. Saint Teresa of Avila, a doctor of the church who reported visions of Jesus and Mary, believed fervently in the power of holy water and stated she used it with success to repel evil and temptations. Right? Now, this language is all kind of crazy, right? The language is all kind of crazy. But we kind of know now that some of this is kind of loosely accurate, right? We know from, look at all of the people who are on water fasts, right? Look at all the people who are on water fasts. Like, we know some of these things is like, we're getting some stuff, right? Because we know a portion of our mental health has to do with our physical health. And we know that a large portion of our physical health has to do with our hydration, our water, right? How hydrated we are, right? And so if we go back into time periods where superstition passed for science, there are some things that seemed like in those time periods, it may have been supernatural because people didn't know what was going on, right? They didn't understand, maybe even, and a lot of people today still don't understand the connection between your physical health and your mental health, right? The connection between what you ate this morning and your attitude, right? How you behave, how you associate, socialize with people. That's why when we had the school, we eventually had to take over how people fed their kids in the morning. Because if you gave your kids a bunch of sugary craziness in the morning, then you dropping off demons to us. Yeah, these are demons. They're going to be happy and amazing and energetic for the first hour. And then after that, they're going to be monsters. They're going to be monsters until lunchtime when they can get another hit of sugar. Another blast of dopamine. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, no. We had to get, but most people today don't know that impact, you know, how impactful that is. So there are some things that do have, you know, so we gotta continue dig in a little. Oh yeah. No. Little demons. Even one child, he was on like 8 or 9 different drugs. I'm talking about a little boy. He was on like 8 or 9 different drugs. Every single thing that you name that kids have, ADD, ADHD, every one of them things that kids can have, he had it. And he was on medication. And anytime he didn't get one of them pills, it was a whole big crazy thing. And he was wild. He was a piece of work. You know what I'm saying? But within like 3 months, we turned him all the way around. And I think they dropped him off of almost all his medication. And he was cool breeze. I don't know what happened to him post us having the school. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, we changed his diet. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously every day in our school, we had either like football, weightlifting, or jujitsu. So there was an exercise regimen, you know what I'm saying? So we added exercise in, not just like recess, exercise. Yeah, you was getting ready to exercise. We was going to work you out. You know what I'm saying? Like you was going back to class tired. It's not running around playing tag. That never happened. It was no free runaround. It was a structured game, some exercise, some calisthenics, jujitsu. We had the jujitsu sensei come in twice a week. But between changing up the exercise routines and the nutrition, you know, that it changed. So, you know, it changed. And so there is, you know, documented, you know, and for people interested in that stuff, You know, we have a book on it, right? Melanin versus Diabetes Book 2. Melanin versus Diabetes Book 2, right? It has a lot of the articles and, you know, the journals and, you know, all that kind of stuff in there. But yeah, little demons. You can literally change children's grades by changing their diet and exercise program. All right. Uh-oh, what is this? What is this? Holy water is important, blah, 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 blah. A majority of studies show that Ethiopians prefer holy water for biomedical purposes, especially for treatment of HIV and AIDS. Wow. That's crazy. That's nasty work right there. That's nasty work right there. That is nasty work right there. We got to give some love to our Ethiopians. I get it, though. They thugging. I get it. They thugging. They holding hard to their belief system, but... And I don't find a problem with the belief system. My problem is that we're not willing to go hard for the belief system, right? Because that's going hard, but that's going hard like in a fake way. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not just get to the bottom of that? Like, if you that life or death, we gonna have this holy water. Like, why don't you figure out where did that originate? Where did that originate? Because clearly, if we just do a quick little search, we know that water wasn't really discovered until the 1800s, right? We didn't figure out H2O until the 1800s. And we didn't really figure out the impact of oxygen on bacteria and viruses. Well, we kind of figured that out in stages. And when I say us, I mean like modern folks, right? We kind of figured that out in stages. They figured out that when the windows was open in the early hospices, people did well, right? When the windows was closed and all that, people didn't recover so well. So fresh air was a thing, right? I'm not sure they even really identified it as oxygen yet, just fresh air. They learned from trial and error. Fresh air had a curative property to it. I don't think oxygen really gets like the stamp until Otto Warburg. You know, Otto Warburg gets his Nobel Prize, and then everything he ever taught gets stamped. He's him now. He got the Nobel Prize for science. So everything he ever said, kind of, right? But he's the driving force behind all of the people on the internet saying that, you know, disease can't survive in an oxygenated environment. That is absolutely not true. It's kind of also, it's truth to it, but it's not. That is not a fact. Okay. Disease can absolutely survive in a well-oxygenated environment. Otherwise, nobody'd be sick because we're all in an oxygenated environment or we couldn't breathe, right? So, but no, you have different types of viruses and bacteria, and, you know, you have some illnesses that have nothing to do with viruses and bacteria, right? So, yeah, well-oxygenated is kind of true in many instances. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely a part of healing. But it's not like court. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the whole truth and nothing but the truth type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a portion, right? So Otto Warburg is 1900s. He's relatively recently. That's the last 100 years. And obviously, oxygen has everything to do with water, right? Because oxygen's a part of the water. So, yeah, crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. What else we got? So I think everybody, I think everybody pretty much just focuses on the water part, right? I think everybody sees this phrase, and I think we just focus on the water part. I don't think anybody really focuses on this. This is where the problem comes in. I don't think anybody focuses on this. I think we all take it for granted that we know everything. Human arrogance is crazy. Human arrogance is crazy. Like, we think we know it all. And we always think we know it all because we educated somehow. So our individual arrogance of knowing it all comes from our belief. It is absolutely a belief that our scientific community or our educational institutions already know everything there is to know. So because we're tapped in science-wise, or because we're tapped in, we got a couple degrees or something, we feel like we know everything. And it's crazy because every 50 years, we find out that half the stuff we thought we knew was incorrect. And then we learn a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't even know that we didn't even know. Get what I'm saying? There are things that we learn every 50 years that are so brand new to people because we didn't even know that we didn't even know them. You know what I'm saying? We didn't even know that we didn't even know these things. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how is it that we're in the information age where this is happening faster now than in the last 2,000 years, but we still have the arrogance of thinking that somehow we know it all? You know what I'm saying? That's, I don't know, that's crazy. That's what's crazy. So anyway, I think this part of the big problem. So I think if we just do that, that'll help us out. Dedicated or consecrated to God, or a religious purpose, or sacred. Okay. We on the journey. We on the mission. Wait a minute. You know what's crazy? I done lost. Yo, that's crazy. I done actually lost the. Hey, yo, I done lost the water book. How I done lost the actual main book? No, here it go. Man, I'm trolling. How I done lost the main book? All right, dedicated or consecrated to God. Right, so there's that. Right, and we have a book or two floating around on this, right? So we'll just leave that there. And let's see what sacred is. Let's do sacred. Connected with God or the gods. Nice little caveat, right? That way we can go God or gods. We can go El or Elohim for the people who was watching last night, the debate, right? We can go El or Elohim, right? Or we can go even further back to netter or netcheru, right? Netcher or netcheru, right? We can take that. All right, let's see what. Let's do that. Hallowed, consecrated, or made holy by association with divinity or divine things, or by religious ceremony or sanction, to make holy, consecrate, anoint. Now that's ancient. That's interesting. That is interesting. To sanctify, to make sacred, sanctify, ratify, ordain. Okay, so a lot of religious conversation, but we do have to make holy, right? We do have to make holy, and we do have holy, right? We have holy and to make holy, right? Or made holy by association with divinity or divine things, right? So, yeah. Holy, from the Old English heilig, which is divine, sacred, to be revered or worshiped, consecrated, sacred, godly, perfect in religious character and practice of devotion, ecclesiastical, whole or uninjured. Okay, now that's interesting because we are supposed to be holistic practitioners. So that might be a little overlap right there. That's interesting. Put that in your back pocket. Used in English after conversation, for Latin sanctus from the early forms, hallow, sanctify. The primary pre-Christian meaning is uncertain, but probably it was that it must be preserved whole or intact, that it cannot be transgressed or violated. The word shares a pi root with the Old English hal, which is health, and the Old German heil, which means health, happiness, and good luck. So, if we go to the spooky, if we go into the spooky, right? If we go into the uninformed tradition, if we go into the uninformed tradition, right, then we have all of these concepts that don't really have like a, you know what I'm saying? Like a grounded meaning, right? But if we keep digging, the primary pre-Christian is health, right? It's health. And we can keep digging. We can keep digging. holy water, right? Holy water. Okay, it's starting to get a little crazy with holy smoke and holy cow. Yeah. It's getting a little crazy with holy smoke and holy cow, right? Now, we tap over here, we see that this is the origin of where we get holistic from. This is the origin of holistic. This is the origin of holistic. So, just in case, you know what I'm saying? For the people, like, wait a minute, is this religious? Is this what are we doing right in this little pocket here, Doc? What are we doing right here in this little pocket? Is this religion? Right? Is this religion? Because this is the origin of holistic. Right? So as we're tracing down to figure out the original concept of holy water, right? The original concept of holy water, we done hit this little stop, right? We can keep our journey going. But we done stopped right here, this little bump in the road. You know, we got a pit stop. We got to get some gas. We done stopped on the highway real quick, right? And we have the origin of holistic health, which is almost like saying the same word twice. Holistic is whole, right? Which means health. So it's almost like saying the same word twice if we do the etymologic, background on the concept of holistic, right? So that's interesting, right? That is interesting, right? Now, obviously, we can continue our journey, right? We can continue our journey pre-Bible, right? We go pre-Bible, right? And what do we have pre-Bible, right? Pre-Bible, we have Kemet. And what do we have in Kemet? What do we have in Kemet, right? Brings us back around to this. The calendar. The year 5125, right? It takes us back 5,125 years ago, right? 5,125 years ago, right? 5,125 years ago. What do we have? We have Narma, right? We have Narma, and Narma is known for uniting Upper Kemet and Lower Kemet, right? But there's some interesting things associated with his name. When we look on Narmer's palette, you don't really see the mer part. Like Narmer is two words put together, Narmer, right? On the Narmer's palette, you see the Nar, right? Because Nar is a catfish, right? Nar is a catfish. Mer is interesting, right? Mer is interesting because, one of my favorite movies, Ray, right? Scratch a lie, find a thief. I find a lot of information with that research, that research strategy. Scratch a lie, find a thief. Show you what I'm talking about. And this is worth me erasing the board for. This is worth me erasing the board for. If not for you, for me, so I can keep my train of thought. Right? Okay. So you have two words, right? Nar, which is not spelled like that, right? But that's how we're gonna rock it. And then you have myrrh, right? Now, on the Narmer's palette, right, you see this. You see the catfish, right? You see the catfish, but you don't really see this. At least not exactly. Not exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of, you see it, but you don't see it, right? Myrrh has a few different meanings, if you will, right? You have a tool, right? That's like a hoe / chisel, right? You have a tool that's like a hoe / chisel, right? Which Masonic, you know, there's some other stuff there. We could explore some other stuff with that, right? But then you have the pyramid, right? And then you just have like kind of like a way of addressing folks, right? But the most prominent thing on the Narmer palette is the catfish, right? Now, for me, again, now you've had 1,000 Egyptologists, Kemetic scholars, everybody has had their opportunity to, you know, break it down and explain what it means from their perspective. Oh, he conquered this army or this whatever, and they showed it, you know. But again, y'all know how I just be zooming right into my little whatever I'm looking at, right? So we're gonna zoom into, we're gonna do a little zooming in right quick. Yeah, Narmer palette. Let's take a look at this Narmer palette. Bam, can we get that? Boom. All right, so here's the Narmer palette, right? Here's the Narmer palette. And here's where I be at, right up there. Oh man, that's the sword. That's as much as we can get. So right here, see, you could barely see it. Here's the Nar, the fish, and here's the tool right here. The hoe / chisel. Depending on who you ask, whatever your source is, right? Some sources do have this listed as a hoe, but a lot of sources have this listed as a chisel, right? So right here, very small, right? And then if you notice this big T shape, right? This big T shape is also something that a lot of people miss. That big T shape, that's a very important thing to let you know what that is, right? That has everything to do with our discussion, right? So some people, I forgot what they call it, but it's something with your name goes in it. There is a name for it. It's something with your name goes in and they let you know whatever. But it's also something else. See, that's the thing about Kemet. With a language made out of pictures, there's multi-layered meaning, right? So some of the stuff you got to know in order to know. Remember earlier we were saying you don't know what you don't know. Some things you got to know in order to know, right? So one of the things that was important to Kemet, right? And not only important to Kemet, but later on Masonic tradition, right? And shout out to Abdullah. Shout out to Abdullah Bey, because he kind of really brought it out to the forefront. And he was talking about it in a totally different kind of sense. But as soon as he said it, it clicked like some things in my mind. I was like, oh, that's crazy, right? But it's called the nilometer, a nilometer, right? The nilometer is a tool that they created. It's like a big T. It's a big T, and it measures the Nile, right? So the nilometer was not only used for agriculture, but it was used for calendar setting. It was used for the royal business. Obviously, they got to know what time of the year it is, what the food, the crop's going to look like, which is wealth, coming out of the Nile. And if you're not paying attention that catfish is special, right? If you don't understand that catfish is special, you might not get the reference of the nilometer, right? The nilometer was to measure the Nile. That catfish was like the identity almost of the Nile. Like that was the main, like that was like the Nile, like one of the main reasons the Nile is special is because of that catfish, right? And that catfish was electric. So the Nile, the waters in the Nile were seen to be special because they were electric. You had electric fish there, right? And so in the Ebers Papyri, you have treatment for arthritis and certain conditions with Jejet, right? Is the certain fish is listed, the catfish and another type of fish is listed as Jejet, right? But you know that that's not the name of the fish if you know the name of the fish. The name of the fish is narfish, is nar, right? So the reason why it's listed as Jejet in the Ebers Papyrus is because they're telling you what to do with the fish, right? So the very first references of using bioelectricity medically comes out of the Nile River, right? And so now they kind of documenting, because later on some Greeks, they wrote it down and whoop. So they kind of, got credit for creating bioelectric whoop, but it comes from that fish, that nar. It comes from the nar fish. It comes from the nar fish and it comes out of the Nile, right? Before the Nile was called the Nile, after the god Nilus, right? Comes out of the happy, right? Because there's no there's no ancient Egypt. So there's really no ancient Nile Valley culture. It's no Nile. Nile is a Greek name, right? This is happy, right? Happy river. So bioelectricity is what Narmer is really, you know, that's what when we look back to Narmer, that's what we should. Yeah, that part. I'll let y'all look at that for a second. Yeah, you see this? Just for the people that's probably interested, you know, the Google demons, right? We can go to the Google demons. You see what I searched? Bioelectricity in ancient Egypt fish. And this is what we got. Ancient Egyptians knew of the electric catfish of the Nile and likely used this bioelectricity for therapeutic purposes, such as treating pain from arthritis and headaches. The fish was depicted in their art, and some medical texts suggest its body parts were used in poultices for inflammation. Ancient texts do not directly support electric shock therapy, but there is evidence they understood the fish's shocking ability for medical uses. Right? So there's a lot of things that, you know, again, we don't even know that we don't even know these things. So we gotta dig. Right? We gotta dig. So there's that part of it. And then let me see. Nilometer, just for people that never heard of that. Let's see if we can get a picture. Let's see if we can get a picture of a nilometer. Okay, look, this is a good one right here. No, that ain't a good one. Oh, we see a few of these joints, but these are more like, oh, here's a good one right here. Bang, look at that. Look at that right there, bang. A big T, you see that? A big T. In Cairo right now, a big T. A big letter T, right? And that's in Cairo, Egypt right now. Yeah. So water, right? Water has a long history. Water has a long history for a wide variety of reasons, right? When we go back to Kemet, which is where the origins of Islam and Judaism and Christianity and all these other things comes from, right? They had the Nile, right? And then on top of the Nile, right? On top of the Nile, we had Nun, right? On top of the Nile, we had Nun, right? So we had the Nile, and then we had a cosmic version, right? We had the Nile, then we had a cosmic version. And there's a time period where this is just purely myth, purely mythological, right? Purely mythological, right? And then what happens? Right? It seems like almost every little aspect, right? There's a time period where it's completely mythological, gobbledygook that, whatever they were making up. And then there's a time period where there's a discovery. Wow. The universe is made out of plasma. It's like that. Yeah, it's like that. It's like it's like a water in space. Yeah, it's like a space water. Like plasma's like space water. It's amazing. Yeah, right. So there's that. And then bam, there's another discovery, right? Kind of like alongside that discovery, right? That, we have below matter, right? Below matter, smaller than atoms when we get to the world of electrons and protons and photons, right? Sometimes they're particles. Sometimes they're waves, right? So the gobbledygook got real clear. Wait a minute. There might be some other explanations, some other things we might have to look into with these waves. This waves thing might not be a joke. We might have to look into whatever they were saying. Whatever they was talking about. Yeah, we might have to figure out. Yeah, right. Yeah, we might have to. So, levels to it, right? So water, right? So now that we did all that, right? Right? And I'm telling you, it started with the scratch a lie, find the thief philosophy. Because when I looked up Narmer, the name didn't match. So I started trying to figure out what it was on my own. Because the name, let me see if I look up real quick what Narmer means. It don't match. What does the name Narmer mean? Oh, the Google demon is pretty right. Boom. That's what it was. Okay. That's what it was. Okay. See, the Google demon is up to date. Right. This is up to date. Chiselfish. Right. But this is what they was putting out there back in the days. This is what was circulating. Painful catfish. Right. And myrrh does not mean painful, right? Myrrh does not mean fierce. Myrrh does not mean fierce or painful. It's quite the opposite. It means like love or beloved. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, let me keep scratch a lie, find the thief. Let me keep looking and see what this was. Because there was no Google demons back in the days. So now we bring it back to holistic. Right? And we just go there. Right? We just go there. Pure. pure. Pure is where the health benefits come in. Pure is where the health benefits come in, right? Without the spooky and the superstition, right? Without the spooky and the superstition, right? And there's plenty of spooky and superstition with holistic, because I didn't even pay attention that I was in the spooky and superstitious group. Yeah. Until I went to Dr. Brown's class, I had never really thought about the word holistic. Yeah, most holistic people don't either. They feel like holistic means like stretching, vegan. That's what holistic is. Herbs, vegan, stretching, exercise, fresh air. That's holistic. I don't know. It just never dawned on me, like most people, to like treat holistic as just like a regular word. Like, we should probably know the definition. If I call myself a holistic practitioner, I should probably know what holistic is. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, when I looked up holistic, I walked it right on down, right? Because holistic and holy both mean whole, which is the concept, whole, that separates holistic ideas from Western modalities. It's not necessarily because holistic people use herbs and Western academia says use medicine. That's not it. Because that line is getting very blurry every day, right? More Western academia folks are starting to use herbs and vitamins, and lots of holistic people are incorporating medicine and surgery as a part of their holistic program, right? So the main thing is this: Western academia, on the shoulders of Darwin, right? On the shoulders of Descartes, going back as far as to Descartes, right? Sees the world in a very dead sense, right? The human body is just a bunch of parts, right? And so because it's a bunch of parts, symptoms are localized, right? Symptoms are localized, meaning if you have pain in your shoulder, you need shoulder medicine or a shoulder surgery. It has nothing to do with any other part of your body, right? Shoulder problem, localized symptom, deal with shoulder. So we should be able to put some medicine into the shoulder one way or another, or do a shoulder surgery, and we should be able to. Holistic says the opposite. Holistic says even though the symptom is localized in the shoulder, whatever's causing that problem is a full body experience. It's a systemic issue, right? It's a systemic issue. So we need to look at the whole body and what's going on in your whole body and how it's impacting your shoulder for whatever reason. And then on the flip side, right, whether we choose to go with herbs, medicine, or surgery to fix the shoulder, how is that surgery, that medicine, or those herbs, or whatever you do, going to affect the rest of the body, right? So that is the main difference. It's not medicine versus herbs. It is the holistic view of the body as one whole cohesive unit versus parts, right? Piecemeal, right? So holy space water. Yeah, that's kind of noon. That's kind of what noon was. Holy space water, like the waters of noon. You know, that's people. You know, if you sat around any of the old, you know, Kemetic scholars and they broke it down to you, you learned about the waters of noon, and you learned about the as above, you know, so below philosophy of Kemet, like recreating, you know, the, you know, astronomy in terms of city structure and, you know, yeah. So, you know, it's kind of funny now, you know what I'm saying? But what we going to do? Dr. Sebi said protein don't exist. What are we going to do? Right? But so this is important though, right? We cooking, right? So we get back here. This is why we needed a new book. That's why we needed a new book. Right? Because almost nobody knows that there is only one source of pure water on earth. One source. It's not a spring, it's not spring water, it's not rainwater, it's not artesian, it's not in a can. It's only one source of pure water. And no, it's not holy space water either.
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky always bringing dark to light. CMOS senior system.
Right? I could do this a simple way. I could do this the simple way and just go, right? Complex 4, right? Mitochondria, right? We're just going to put mitochondria, boom. Right? That's the simple way. The only source of pure water for humans on Earth is complex 4 inside your mitochondria. Right? That is the only water close to holy on Earth. Right? In the truest sense of the term. Right? Pre-Christian sense. Right? Pure, healthy water. Mitochondria, right? Now that would be the easy way. That'll be the easy way, right? But y'all know by now, y'all don't really come here for the easy way. Right? Y'all come here for the long route. Did he get 50 months? We just gonna say pause. We just gonna say pause and move on. Right? So the long way long way is photosynthesis. Right? The long way is photosynthesis. Right? The long way is beta oxidation. Right? But fortunately, we have already walked down. Right? Fortunately, we have already walked all the way down. What week we in? What week we in anabolic? In our anabolic class. We in week 11, right? So think about that. We already got like 30 classes in. 30 classes. By the time we get to week 11, we about 25, 30 classes in. Somewhere, something like that. Or maybe a little bit more. No. Yeah, we definitely around 30 classes in. Right? We about 30 classes in. Look, we on week 11, but Paul said he on week 8. Paul, you don't got to say that. Listen, it's people that's going to watch this video and they're going to try to start up on week. Oh, well, you know what? They can't even start up on week 1. Ooh, I forgot about that. Okay, so if you're looking for the classes, y'all might want to join the Patreon. Yeah, you got to join the Patreon because these classes don't live on YouTube. Right? They stay on YouTube for a little while. I don't know, get a couple hundred views, 400, 500 views, and then they vanish. They vanish. Then they're over on the Patreon. So these classes live on the Patreon. Right? Now, obviously, you can get the books and do your own thing. Right? You can get your books and do your own thing, but you got to join the Patreon. Patreon.com/Dr. Inky. And yes, these classes will vanish. These classes will vanish as well. Right? All right. Okay, we're about to start getting into
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky always bringing dark to light. See Moss in your system.
This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.